what is your personal interest in the breakfast group? I mean, how do you see what we do as important to the communities that we live in?
Yeah, well, I think it's important. I have a personal interest in that. I believe that we can always talk about doing well for the community and talking about reaching back, but it's the doing that matters. And so for me, personally, there have been men in my life who've reached back to me and tried to help me through tough times. And so I think it's the mentoring aspect of it that's gotten my attention. And I think mentoring is something that everyone needs to do, and you should do it authentically and do it through who you are. And so I think that's what the breakfast group seems like it's done in the community for a lot of young men.
Absolutely. So how do you see the business community's role in supporting what we do?
Yeah. Well, we at the Seahawks, we have ethos of giving back, and this meets one of our pillars of our community giving, and as far as youth development, youth empowerment. And I think any business is going to understand that the next workforce, the next people in the workforce are going to be this generation. So if we're talking about longevity and trying to build a future, then you're going to want to invest in that future. And I think business communities, businesses who get it, know that that's what you have to do.
So what about as far as the breakfast group? How do you see an organization like the breakfast group connecting with community organizations? Mm-hmm. How can we kind of support the missions and join with community organizations and companies around the city in moving our mission forward?
I think telling the story. I think some of the stories I heard today at the luncheon, is it Marquez. So Marquez's story is compelling. It's a story that I think anybody hearing would understand that these are the kind of people that we always talk about trying to reach, and it looks like the breakfast group is reaching someone like that. So I think telling that story and telling those sort of human interest stories is the way that any community, whether it's the business community or other communities, would want to get involved. I think being, again, a sort of authentic, raw story, it got my attention. I can't see why it wouldn't get others' attention as well.
Well, it certainly got my attention.
Yeah.
When I was listening to hear him speak, I forget what year he was in high school, junior, I think.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, this is a future leader here. And I think just as important is our role as mentors to him.
Sure.
There's a role for him to play in that
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah.
So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think that I've never been a formal mentor. I've mentored people through the years. And I think the best way that I've gotten to people is to use what I have two of and less of what I have one of. So close my mouth and listen a lot more. And I think in listening, I'm able to hear where they are. And once you hear where they are, then you can start to go to reach them by talking to where they are. I think too often we tend to use the one of, the mouth, a lot more than we do the two of, which is listening. So I think having someone like him be able to tell you his story, tell you at the points at which he had made decisions that are going to be impactful to the rest of his life, then you're able to say, okay, next time he comes upon a decision tree, that's where I can help him by saying, hey, think about this, think about that. So just listening to him and having him actually tell you his story, I think helps you to be able to say something that's meaningful to him. So I think it is a two-way street, but sometimes I think as a mentor you feel like you have to say all the right things when sometimes it's just listening. So I think for me, that was one of the more impactful things.
Yeah, I'm actually a CPA. I'm an accountant. I work for Ernst & Young at the moment.
Okay.
National Association of Black Accountants has this saying. It's lifting as we climb. When I heard him speak, I'm thinking, this guy, he's a beneficiary of the mentee program,
right.
As a mentee.
Right.
But certainly, he could be a mentor. I could see him being a mentor in the future.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
I mean, his background actually parallels my own.
Really?
I was
okay.
never shot. I've never shot.
Right.
But
may have made some of the similar.
Similar, you
yeah.
know, and it's a product of not having a mentor, and ideally your first mentor is who?
Yeah, it's your dad.
It's your dad.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, I mean, I know I'm supposed to be interviewing you. I just
Yeah, that's fine. I think part of the interview is being able to, tell your story too.
Maybe the question is, how do you see the problem of a lack of male role models in the community,
Mm-hmm.
and how important it is for young black men
Mm-hmm.
to have those kind of positive images, role models,
Right.
what have you, to fill that void.
Yeah.
Specifically, black male
Sure.
role models.
No. I mean, it's preeminently important. I mean, the fact that there's not the numbers of black male role models for young black males creates a void. And I think when you create that void with a young mind, they're left to their own devices. Typically, the consequences of their decision is not great. So I think lack of black male role models in the community is probably a great percentage as to why we have a lot of black incarceration rate, young black male incarceration rate. The imagery of a young black male being the perpetrator of crime is so accepted by our society, in part because they don't have that counterbalance of imagery to that same extent. So I think if the rest of the world who isn't black and young and male see that lack of an imagery, of a positive imagery, imagine someone who is young, black, and male who doesn't see it as well, begins to adopt the feeling that, well, maybe my life isn't as important. Maybe I do need to take and rob and steal. And I think that happens younger than we know. And I think at a certain age, people have already accepted a certain fate, which is criminal.
Do you think it's our responsibility as black men to fill that void, for each one to teach one?
Yeah. I think the first responsibility certainly is for anybody, particularly young black or for black males, is take care of your family. Make sure you're the best role model for your kids. And if you got that sealed down and that's taken care of, then yes, I think you need to go out and do that in the community. But I think taking care of home is first. Your home, and not just your own family, but not just your own immediate family, but friends and families of yours. Maybe it's church people you know. I think start at home. That will become a reverberating effect. But yeah, I think also the broader community, you need to, if you're able to do that, yes, you should. But I think the most important one is taking care of home first.
Okay, I have one last question. We have one last question. How do you think the breakfast group we can do our job better? One of the things that I'm tasked to do as the chairman of the fundraising committee is
Mm-hmm.
really reach out to sponsors in the community
Mm-hmm.
and really get their feedback on how we can do a better job.
Mm.
We definitely want to grow the organization. We want to be more successful in doing what we do.
Right.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm recently introduced to the breakfast group, so I don't know the history as well. From what I do know, obviously today's luncheon and what I've heard before and read, I think you're doing a great job. How do you take that message to the business community and other potential funders? It's a tough one because, being a part of the business community, there's always great causes to fund. I think the ones that we choose to fund typically they have longevity, they have, or they have a connection with someone that we know and we trust and we believe in. The quality of the leadership is something that we want to make sure is there so that we can know that it's going to be a long-running and impactful program. I think aligning with other programs that are already, or other groups that are already doing good work along the same lines that you are, that always sends a good message to the funder that, hey, we funded X, now here's X plus 1, we should fund this as well. I think those are the three keys that we look at. And obviously it has a fit within the funding sort of priorities of the community or of the organization. So Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
To meet you. Pleasure to interview you.
Thank
and,
you.
Thank you and your organization for supporting and being a sponsor of what we do. And I
Very, very
appreciate it.
happy to. Thank you. All right. I didn't quite look where you wanted me to. Sorry, that was a little, a little unnerving. I couldn't. It was tough. Yeah, I realized quickly I couldn't do that.
What happened was we needed that beginning shot of you sort of looking this way.
Okay.
And that's why I just walked away.
Okay.
Because
Once I've done it.
Yeah.
All right.
But
I
if there's
get
a
it.
conversation going on, it can't be like this the whole time.
Sure.
It's got to be sort of like starting at the camera.
Okay, so the initial was there.
And then you're going to be doing one more interview?